A preview of the Pac-12 championship game by most people's opinions. We'll have the Utes taking on the Ducks, and there's going to be a lot of interesting facets to this game, Jake. But one of the more fascinating storylines is this Kyle Whittingham rumor that just won't go away, that Kyle Whittingham is retiring after this season. Now, if you watch this show on a daily basis, you know we've been talking about this since September. When we first heard the rumor, we talked about it again in October when we heard that rumor again. And then Sports Illustrated decided to get on the bandwagon yesterday, apparently, and report that the rumors are heating up that Kyle Whittingham will step away from college football after this season and call it a career. And I think it's very interesting that all of this is coming up on Oregon week when you're essentially playing if you're Oregon for a spot in the college football playoff, and if you're Utah, you're playing to lock up the South and auto bid yourself to the Rose Bowl. Jake, this is a huge weekend for the Utah Utes.
Yeah, and I think for Kyle Whittingham as a football coach, it is it is a huge weekend. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's everything you want as a football coach. It's everything you want as a football player. And I think that the way this season has gone down is obviously very different, but it's also an amazing story, and they have the opportunity to finish that story and to really cement Whittingham's legacy. I think there's no questioning what Kyle Whittingham has done at Utah. I just always think in the moment there's always opportunity to add to that list or that resume, and I think this game right here it could be one of Kyle Whittingham's final best last signature moments. And what I mean by that is if you win this game, it would be a huge flex, and unfortunately, this is kind of what we always find ourselves talking about come, bowl season and the end of the year in college football, which is the Pac-12 always shoots itself in the foot. And what I mean is you always have, Oregon or Utah or a college football playoff caliber team going to another place to die. And that's kind of what, this Oregon-Utah matchup feels like for Oregon. I feel like Utah is going to come out. They're going to play great defense. And this is going to be a really tough sledding game for Oregon. That's honestly what I feel like it's going to be. And I just think that from a college football standpoint and from a Pac-12 conference standpoint, it's unfortunate. As a fan, it's amazing. This is going to be a phenomenal game. If you're not sitting down, turning on ABC, what is it, 5:30, I think it is. If you don't have this game on your TV, I don't know that you're a football fan. I mean, this is everything you could ever want. So, yeah, I think this is a huge game for Kyle Whittingham with the retirement rumors around. But I don't think we should be sitting here saying, okay, this is his last game ever. I think we need to see what happens in this game. Because if I know Kyle Whittingham at all, I know that he's not going to want to go out on a losing foot. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting. You talk about a guy like Kyle Whittingham and his legacy. And that's such a heavy conversation because for a guy like Whit who's accomplished so much at Utah, just over the last decade alone, like you think about who this program, what this program has turned into since Kyle Whittingham took over, and you think about things like his legacy, and you start thinking about, what's left for Kyle Whittingham to prove, and I don't know that there's a whole lot left for him to prove. I would love to see the Utes get to a Rose Bowl. I'd love to see the Utes win a Pac-12 championship. And I'd love to see Kyle Whittingham go out on the highest of notes. But, Jake, it seems like this year has been so tumultuous, and really the last calendar year has really just been soul-crushing for Kyle Whittingham. He talked about that this week on ESPN, about just how difficult the last year has been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does a win tomorrow night at Rice-Eccles against Oregon really mean for him?
Yeah, I think I think for him, for the program, for the players, even for the fans, for everybody on the Utah side, I think a win tomorrow against this Oregon team, it just is, I'm not trying to be corny, but I think it is one of those classic sports moments. You have a program that has lost 2 players in 2 years. You have a program that was really struggling. You have a program that had a quarterback quit on them, and then they come back. And I know that that's a point of, joking, right? But I'm being serious. He quit on this team. And I think that that this team took that personally. They obviously had to deal with the loss of those players, and so I think now they've come together and they've been winning and they've been doing their job, and it's just that story, that feel that only sports can really put out. Hey, we were really struggling. We had tragedy in the program. We lost a quarterback. Like, all this stuff happened, but we came together. The program, like, again, all credit to Kyle Whittingham, right? This program could have easily just gone in and put in a 3-10 season or whatever. You could have put in like a terrible season, but you didn't do that. Instead, what did you do? You've leaned on your leadership and Kyle Whittingham and that coaching staff. You've leaned on the leaders of this football team and Britton Covey and Devin Lloyd, and they came together. And now you've been winning football games, and you've put yourself in a position to not only be a ball breaker for Oregon, but also to go out and put yourself in a position to win the Pac-12 conference.
That's right.
And I think that is just magical sports stuff. If you're a sports fan, that's what you're looking for. And I just think that it just means so much if they could win this game.
Do we romanticize the impact that guys like Kalani Sitake and Kyle Whittingham have on this state? I think we make a big deal about the impact of coaches. I think we make a big deal about, how this is Kalani's dream job and Kyle Whittingham, is the perfect fit at Utah. And do we overstate that? Do we, and the right word again is romanticize it. I think Kyle Whittingham is the perfect fit. You broke the mold when that guy popped out the womb. Like, there's nobody else like him.
Yeah, I mean, if we romanticize, Kalani and Witt, then we definitely, are too negative on other people in the college football world who struggle, and that's what sports is about. It's an emotional thing for fans and for people like us who obviously cover it, and I think that sports, as you have said for probably a decade at this point, is the thing that brings us together. And I think that because it is that thing in our life and it plays that role, there's a lot of emotion behind it. I mean, think about it this way. Like, if we take a step back and we look at the NFL, I mean, when you have Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holiday season coming, the NFL is absolutely part of all of those days. And we look forward to the NFL Thanksgiving game, whatever that is. We look forward to Christmas Day in the NBA. So, yeah, sure, if you want to say we romanticize it, sure. I'm saying that I want to have a belly full of great food, and I want to have sports on the TV, and I want to be on PTO and not be worrying about the stresses of life.
Yeah.
So that's probably why we feel that way about sports. But, yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to give Kyle Whittingham and Kalani Sitake all the love in the world because I think they've earned it. They've done amazing things in their roles, and they deserve it.
Well, and it's interesting in the state of Utah in particular, because this is not in every state.
Yeah.
But in the state of Utah in particular, you've had some legendary coaches here. I mean, if you think about Lavelle Edwards, if you think about Jerry Sloan, Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake now is starting to climb into that echelon. And by the way, I also don't think Kalani's there yet. I mean, Kalani's had a nice start to his career at BYU. Kalani's not a legendary coach yet.
He's had a nice 18 months right now. That's what I would say. He's had a nice 18 months. There's a lot of momentum in the program. A lot of great things are happening. But, hey, you still got to go out and get into a New Year's Six. Hey, you still got to go out and win the Big 12 the first year you're in there. Like, you still got to go and do these things to get to that status.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's one of those things where we just need to take a minute and realize how good Kyle Whittingham is at his job. That's where that's kind of where I'm going when we talk about romanticizing the history of coaches in this state. And
I think because there's not an NFL team here, that's why these guys are so important. You look around the other states in the Pac-12, they've all got NFL teams. You look at like the Seahawks. You look at obviously it goes without saying California's got 3 NFL teams or whatever it is. You look around and basically everybody else has an NFL team, and we don't have one here. And I think that's why locally the football fan is so plugged into BYU and Utah. And yes, everyone's going to come into the comments and say, well, what about Utah State and Weber and whatever? I'm telling you, great. Yeah, those programs are cute. But at the end of the day, Utah and BYU are the ticket.
Yeah, but I think if you look around the history of sports, and if you look around, I mean, I grew up in Chicago with some legend. I mean, there's no more legendary coach than Mike Ditka, but I think when you look at longevity and success, I think that's what defines the greatness of coaches.
Yeah.
And if you look at Kyle Whittingham, he's not a flash in the pan. This guy has been he's a Utah for life.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I do think there's a really good chance, and I don't know what you think about this, but yeah, I do think there's a real good chance he's going to retire. I mean, he was that interview on ESPN the other day, he was nothing short of on the edge of emotions. Like, and I don't know how many people saw that. I'd encourage you to go back and watch it. But Kyle Whittingham was on ESPN the other day, and he was straight up emotional.
Yeah, and I think he's been that way most of the season, and I think that, he we mentioned Monday on the show, I think it was, that Kyle Whittingham, the way he's talking in interviews, without saying that he's going to retire, he's basically saying he's going to retire, which is like,
it feels that way.
Just some of the comments he's been making, and so I don't think it's a negative or certainly anything that he should be criticized for. I think that Kyle Whittingham has been an amazing, pillar in the community for many years now. I don't even know how long he's been the head coach at Utah. I mean, it's been a minute, but I just think that, we shouldn't start like back in, what did you say it was, October, when we did the first video on if Kyle was September. I remember during those times, there was a lot of conversations in the comments and people kind of abroad in the media asking, well, who is Utah going to hire? Because the Kalani to USC thing was, starting to heat up a little bit. And, there was all this conversation in the state of Utah. And I think that we're just not there yet. We shouldn't be talking about, Kyle's replacement. We shouldn't, we're kind of being forced to talk about whether he's going to retire or not because of the way he's talking. But I just think right now, when you're playing Oregon and you're in a huge week, that's what we should be focused on. And I think that Witt deserves that. If you're a Utah fan and you're thinking, okay, what does Kyle Whittingham really deserve right now? He deserves us to pay attention to Oregon and put off the retirement talk until their season's over with. And
I would agree with that.
That's just what I think it is.
Well, and I think it's always difficult when you start hearing rumors like this. You start talking about replacements.
Yeah.
And it is nothing short of disrespectful.
It's a snowball
how
effect.
do you not?
Yeah, it's a snowball effect. Oh, my God, Kyle Whittingham's retiring. Okay, well, hey, if he's gone, well, hell, who's going to replace him? I mean, it's just a natural progression of the conversation, which is why I say, hey, yes, I think there is a 60% chance he retires probably. It's definitely better than 50-50. I think he's definitely leaning towards it. But, what are you going to say if you're sitting here talking about him retiring and then all of a sudden he says he's going to come back? I mean, then you're going to feel like an idiot. So that's why I say, rather than talking about his replacement and where's Utah going to go and yada, yada, let's talk about, hey, if this is his last, best moment as Utah's head coach, send it out on a high note. And that's what I think Kyle Whittingham is trying to do. I think he's trying to win a huge game, go win his bowl game, and get on with it. So that's where I think he is, honestly.
I also think, by the way, there's a football game we got to talk about because,
seriously.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's coming, and this is a college football playoff team. I think, obviously not to state the obvious, obviously. But, wait, I'm sorry. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yep.
Not to state the obvious, this is the game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And for Utah, this is the game of the year. And this is that game where, all of your fate's going to be decided. And I think one of the things that, I look at with this game is that I think Utah's going to have to win when they have 3 tight ends on the field. Because I think whether it's Fotheringham or, I mean, Keithy, like my point is when you have 3 tight ends of this caliber, they're big body guys that can move people and, oh, by the way, that can catch the football. I think those 3 tight end sets have been remarkably efficient and effective for Utah. And if they're going to beat Oregon, my opinion is, Jake, they're going to have to do that with 3 tight ends on the field.
Yeah, and the reason they need to do it with 3 tight ends on the field is because they need to get Kayvon Thibodeau, moving. You can't just have him sitting in the box waiting for your running backs. And I think that, when you have these sets where 3 tight ends are on the field, it allows you to be creative. Obviously you could run out of that. Obviously, you can pass out of that. And I think that you have to be, to beat a defense like Oregon, you have to keep them guessing. You got to keep them on the back foot. And because if they know you're going to run the ball, you're not winning that down. And I
Right.
think that,
Yeah.
you have to be creative. So it's not just about, Tavion Thomas or Micah Bernard, right? It's not just about Cam Rising. Like, it's about an offensive game plan that keeps the Oregon defense guessing. Because I just believe that Utah's defense is quality enough to stop Oregon's offense. The question is going to be, can Utah's offense, beat Oregon's defense? That's where I truly believe this game will be decided. I don't think it has anything to do with Oregon's offense. I think it has everything to do with Oregon's defense versus Cam Rising. Can Cam not turn the football over as well?
And I also think that Oregon hasn't seen a team that runs the way that Utah does. And obviously, Tavion Thomas is a big question. Is he going to play? Most people expect him to play. But, I mean,
he's playing. You can't tell me he's going to miss this game.
He didn't play against Arizona.
Yeah, I just...
and it's, the funny thing is, who knows what the injury is.
Yeah, and that's like the tough part.
He's a game time decision. So we'll see. I think he's going to play. But he has 2 straight games with 160 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, Tavion Thomas is a stud, and he's arrived, and we've been waiting for him to arrive. And now that he is here, my God, he has just taken over the running back spot. And now Pledger did a nice job against Arizona, but Tavion Thomas is your go-to. He's your workhorse. That's the guy that you have to figure out. And I also think Nick Ford needs to be healthy and effective, because he is a guy that, obviously he got hurt late in the Arizona game, so you worry about that a little bit. But I would guess that he would be good to go. I think he said on ESPN the other day that it was cramping is what took him out of that game. And if that's true, you would think he'd be good to go.
I just think anybody on this roster right now who's got an injury that they could work around or work with while they play is going to play. I mean, this is one of those games, again, going back to that whole idea of, like romanticizing or anything like that. This is your game of the year. This is where you make your stand. Guys like, Tavion Thomas, like, you got to play. I mean, you have to. If there is any, even if you're 30% of what you can be as a running back, you got to do it. You just have to. It's what you do as a leader of a football team when you're in a big game. Like against Arizona, that's what you're not going to play in that game if you're hurt. Okay, it's Arizona. We should handle them.
Well, I also wonder, do we find out who this Utah defense really is? Because obviously, I think we all realize this is not the same Utah defense that we have been accustomed to with Kyle over the last decade. But this is still a pretty good defense. And I'm curious, how will Utah do against the run? Because I think we both agree that if Oregon runs for 200 yards, they're going to win this game.
This game's over already.
Yeah, they're going to win this game if they run for 200 yards. And I think that's the thing that Utah's going to have to figure out. You're going to be down a corner, obviously, but you need to figure out how do you step up and stop the run against a pretty complex Oregon offense.
Yeah.
That's my biggest question.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Utah's defense, a lot of, obviously Utah is defensively is not what they usually are, but I think if we're just talking logically, generalized football conversation, not Utah specific, but just as a football defense, what you have to do to win ball games for your team. I think it's number one, it's gap assignment in the run game. So you have to be disciplined with what you're supposed to be doing. You need those guys to do their job. And so that's the first thing you want to look for on the first play of the game. Are these guys in the gaps at the right time? Number one. Number two, when the pick opportunity happens, when the ball is in the air and the DB is there for Utah to catch that football and make the interception, do they catch the ball or do they drop the ball? Because there's no room for dropping an easy interception in this game. But I'm telling you, there will be opportunities. I truly believe that. I think there will be opportunities in this game if Utah executes well for them to turn this Oregon offense over. I think that will happen. But it's a question of if you catch it or drop it. Because we've seen, like with BYU, we've seen that many times. We've even talked about it, how the ball skills in the secondary really hurt them. So for Utah, they need to take advantage of those things.
Well, and I also think the other thing that really comes to mind is, what is Anthony Brown pull off against this Ute defense? Because he's not a prolific passer of the football. I don't think there's anybody that's going to make a Heisman argument solely based on his 2,030 yards.
But I think that's an opportunity for the Utes defense. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, but I also think he brings a certain complexity. I mean, this is a guy that can run for, between 40 and 75 yards a game on you if you allow him to.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they really get dangerous. If they run for 200 yards, he generally is going to have 50, 60 yards on the ground on his own. And Dye, I think we all know what Dye can do. But I think you're going to see that Utah's going to dare Anthony Brown to beat them with his arm. And I think there's some risk in that. Utah, I think, wants to be physical. I think Utah likes to win games in the trenches. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I think this offensive line has really taken a huge step forward. I think that you've gotten a lot of that is Cam Rising. I think his ability to understand where this offensive line is, because when your offensive line's not executing very well, and let's be honest, the offensive line at Utah has had a lot of struggles early in the season when Quitter quarterback was in there, but now that Rising's in there, I think you're seeing he's getting rid of the football more quickly. He understands weaknesses on that line and which way he has to favor. So my feeling is, anyway, that Utah's going to win this game. And I think Utah's going to win this game somewhere along the lines of a 38-27, 38-24 game.
Yeah. 38 feels heavy against Oregon in this game. That'd be my only. I do believe Utah's winning this game. If
Tavion Thomas plays, they're going to score 35 points.
Yeah.
If Tavion Thomas plays, I am very confident that they will score 35 points.
Yeah, I don't doubt that could happen, first of all. But my feeling, my instincts, based on, reading and watching and looking at this game, I feel like this is a close game. I feel like this isn't a game where either of these teams are going to get away. I don't feel like this is like a 10-point victory or even a touchdown victory. I feel like this is a 35-31, a 35, like a one score, real close kind of game. And I do think that Utah pulls it out in the end. I think that Utah wins this game, ends Oregon's season. It's that kind of storyline on Monday.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting just looking at some of the numbers. Just looking at some of the numbers in this game, I think it's going to be very close until the end. And I think you're going to see that. I just think that Utah is going to wear Oregon down.
Yeah.
If this game was at Autzen, I'd be picking it the exact opposite way, but it's not.
It's not.
It's in Sac Lake City, and I think there is no defense that gets after the quarterback or racks up tackles for loss, plays in the backfield.
I want to say it's going to be really cold too.
It's going to be in the 30s. As the night goes on. So my feeling is that I really like Utah in this game. And if I think 35-28, 38-27, 35-28 is where I'm going to stick.
Okay.
I'm going to go 35-28. The rain is not necessarily the issue that I think for Oregon. I do think the cold is going to play a larger factor because there's a chance of precipitation. But it's going to be in the low 40s, high 30s for that game. So
yeah, I agree. I think I'm with you. I don't think it's more than 40 points. I think it's like 35-31. I think it's in the low to mid 30s. I think it's a one possession game, and I think that I think that Utah's defense, they're winning this game with defense, to be clear. They may have a big offensive night, but the defense is going to have to make a play to stop Oregon to win this game. That's on it. That's just how I think the game is going to play out.
And I think a lot of people have gotten lost in the line on this game that Utah's such a home favorite. What does the line actually mean?
Yeah.
The line actually means nothing. To me, Oregon's a very, very good football team. I think Utah's a little better than Oregon at home. And that's why I think Utah's going to win the game.